We are ranking the SEC schedules here on Mark Rogers TV, and I cannot tell you how difficult this is. So, for example, we have landed at number 10 with Florida. I've got Florida at 10. I've got South Carolina at 9. In the previous post, I determined the difference between Florida and Tennessee schedules. It was razor close, i.e., South Carolina and Florida. Same decision I had to make between 9 and 10. They both play in the Eastern Division. They play head-to-head, of course, so those 6 games are null and void the same. Okay, out of the SEC Western Division, Florida's got LSU, and they've got Ole Miss. South Carolina's got LSU, same game, so they play actually 7 of 8, and the other game is against Texas A&M. So Texas A&M, Ole Miss, toss-up. So what's the difference between South Carolina's schedule and Florida's? Florida's got the 1-1 toughie. Real toughie. Florida State at home November 28th to conclude the season. South Carolina, well, they've got the one toughie in Clemson. Who's better this year, Clemson or Florida State? Vegas tells us that it's a dead heat for the ACC championship right now between Clemson and Florida State. Florida State's been better in recent years and won the head-to-head against Clemson, but it may change this season. Clemson, Florida State, that's a toss-up. So where do you go from there? Well, South Carolina's got North Carolina to open the season. Florida's second most difficult non-conference game. I credit the Gators. They actually play a more difficult non-conference schedule than just about anybody else in the SEC. Their second most difficult non-conference game, East Carolina for Florida. Again, for South Carolina, it's North Carolina. That's a toss-up, even though East Carolina defeated North Carolina last year. I would expect the Tar Heels, with what East Carolina has lost on offense going into 2015, to be better. So it's that close. And these are the decisions that have to be made in looking at the SEC schedules. I completed the ACC. Check those out, 1 through 14. Yes, it took analysis. It took some decision-making. It took some breakdown in the ACC, but it was not nearly as difficult as separating these SEC schedules. So again, number 10 is Florida, and the highlights of the schedule would be out-of-division games against Ole Miss and their cross-division rival LSU on the road in Baton Rouge, October 17th. They've got the 2 tough non-conference games, relatively speaking, Florida State, of course, and East Carolina in Week 2. So that's the Florida Gators schedule. The toughest stretch here is a pretty good run here for the Gators once they dive into Week 4 against Tennessee, pivotal game with the Gators having won 10 consecutive games against the Vols. Tennessee, Ole Miss, at Mizzou, at LSU, Georgia. That is a pretty brutal 5-game stretch for the Gators. Again, this is the 10th toughest schedule in the SEC, and that's what makes the conference so difficult, is the scheduling in conference, and it's the depth of the conference. Again, you can look at the other Power 5 conference schedules, and you can look at the teams at the top, and they are extremely good. But you go 8, 9, 10 deep in the SEC, and the teams are very, very solid. Tennessee, Ole Miss, Mizzou, LSU, Georgia, consecutive weeks in September and October with a bye week between LSU and Georgia. But those are 5 consecutive toughies for the Gators. It's the 10th toughest schedule in the SEC. Would love to hear what you have to say about it right here on Mark Rogers TV.